There's a stretch of highway near Winslow, Arizona, where your radio cuts out for exactly 8 miles. No static, no signal, just silence. On that stretch sits a busted old motor court, the Red Door Motel. Been closed since '92, but truckers swear if you drive past it after midnight, sometimes the no vacancy sign flickers on, and the door to room 313 swings wide open, waiting. I was 19, dumb, broke, driving a beat-up Chevy Nova cross-country after dropping out of college. Car overheated halfway through Arizona. Middle of July, no phone, no gas station for miles. Then, like a damn mirage, the Red Door appeared. Place looked abandoned. Sand drifted against the doors. Shingles peeled off the roof. But the office light was on, buzzing yellow, like someone had just switched it on. I stepped inside. No one behind the counter, just a dusty bell. I rang it, and that's when the man came out. He was tall, thin, dressed like it was 1950, hair slicked back, pale, like he hadn't seen the sun in years. No name tag, just a whispery voice. Room 313 is open if you'd like to rest. I didn't ask questions. I was tired, sunburned, stupid. He handed me a brass key, ice cold, and pointed down the hall. Room 313, the one with the red door. It was the only door painted a deep crimson. Looked freshly done. I turned the key and stepped inside. The room was perfect. Too perfect. Spotless carpet. Bed made military tight. A mint on the pillow. But something was off. There were no windows, no phone, and the clock on the wall ticked backward. I sat on the edge of the bed. Lights flickered. I started to feel cold, deep in my bones. That's when I saw the picture frame on the nightstand. It was me, sleeping, in that exact room. Same clothes, same position. I ran for the door, wouldn't open. I kicked it, punched it, screamed. No sound came out of my mouth, like the room swallowed it. Then the TV turned on by itself, static. Then a face, mine, but older, bruised, eyes bloodshot. It whispered over and over, "You shouldn't have entered the Red Door." I blacked out, woke up on the highway shoulder the next morning. Car was running, tank full. Key still in my pocket, but rusted like it had been buried for decades. When I called the highway patrol later, they said the Red Door Motel was torn down in '79 after a mass suicide. The manager had gone mad, locked 13 guests in room 313, poisoned them, burned the bodies. There was never any room 313 in the original blueprints, and no red doors. But the stories still come. A hitchhiker found with a brass key clutched in his hand. A woman screaming in her sleep about the backward clock. A trucker who vanished after stopping for the night, last seen parking outside a red door that shouldn't exist. They say the motel still opens for the lost, but room 313 isn't a place to sleep. It's a place to stay forever. There's a stretch of the Mojave most folks don't talk about. No signs, no gas stations, just a sunburned dirt trail that splits from Route 66 like a bone fracture. Drive 30 miles down it and you'll find nothing except a church. One cross, one bell, and a stone carving that reads, "St. Dunwich welcomes the faithful." But the doors haven't opened since 1986. That's when the last congregation vanished. I was 23, driving west from Flagstaff to LA, running from a breakup and a DUI charge. Car started overheating, so I pulled off for shade. That's when I saw it. A white wooden church in the middle of nothing. No road, no parking lot, just sitting in the desert like it had been planted there. I walked up, paint peeling off the siding, bells swaying even though there was no wind. But the front door? Unlocked. And inside, it was pristine, like it had just been cleaned. Every pew polished, Bible open on the pulpit, and on the front wall, handwritten in thick red paint, was a message. Those who hear his voice must not turn away. I heard singing, low, echoing, from below. That's when I noticed the trapdoor behind the pulpit. I lifted it. A staircase led underground, wooden steps, rotting and black with age, but the singing was clearer now. A hymn I'd never heard before. The light will burn, the soul will turn, beneath the sands of grace. I went down. The basement was massive, bigger than the church itself, carved straight into the desert rock. Candlelight danced on the walls, and in the center, a congregation. 50, maybe 60 people, all sitting perfectly still. Eyes wide open, silent now. Their faces looked mummified, but fresh, like they'd just died yesterday. And standing behind the altar was a man in priest robes, except his face was wrapped in cloth, like a leper. And when he spoke, it felt like a whisper in my bones. You've heard him now. You can't leave. I ran up the stairs, out the door, except outside, it was pitch black. Sunset had come in seconds, and my car, gone. Just tire tracks fading into sand, and behind me, the church bell rang. Once, twice, 13 times. The sheriff's report said I was found walking barefoot on the highway, clothes torn, raving about buried churches and singing corpses. They found no building where I said it was, but 3 weeks later, a prospector stumbled across a white bell, buried in sand. Etched on it was a name that never appeared in any church registry, Father Eli Dunwich, and inside the bell, written in dried blood, the last sermon has not yet been heard. So if you ever hear a bell ring in the desert and there's no wind, don't follow it. Don't turn. Don't listen. Because once you hear his voice, you're already one of them. They say the old mining town of Gravestone Ridge died overnight. One day, the machinery was humming, the saloon packed, miners filing into the hills like ants chasing gold. And the next, the town was just gone. Not abandoned, erased. Families left their meals half-eaten, horses left tied to posts, not a soul in sight. Most folks chalked it up to a busted shaft or some fatal collapse. But the truth is worse, much worse. My Uncle Wade was one of the last men to ever set foot in Gravestone Ridge and lived to tell about it. It was the summer of '84. I'd just gotten laid off from the rail yards up in Carson. Money was tight. So when an old buddy from the Bureau told me about a mining contract in Gravestone Ridge, $500 a day to inspect a sealed shaft, I couldn't say no. Gravestone Ridge was about 30 miles into the desert, not even on most maps anymore. The road out there, dirt and heat. The air got thick the closer I got, like breathing through cloth. I parked my truck outside the main gate. The entire town was fenced in, with "Keep Out" signs that looked newer than everything else around. As I crossed the gate, I noticed something strange. No bird sounds, no wind, just stillness, like the desert was holding its breath. The town still stood, weather-worn but intact. The saloon, the post office, the chapel. But all the doors were open. Every single one. That's when I heard it. A faint clicking sound, like metal on rock, coming from deep below the earth. I found the mine entrance. It was welded shut with thick steel beams, but something, had peeled them back like tinfoil. Inside was nothing but blackness. I should have left right then and there, but I didn't. I switched on my helmet light and stepped in. The walls felt like they were sweating, damp despite the desert heat. As I walked deeper, I saw names carved into the support beams, dozens of them. Jackson, T. Leonard, Maria T., all crossed out in what looked like claw marks. Then I saw the shaft 7, the one they'd told me to inspect. Chains dangled down from the opening, blood-stained, and carved into the wooden post above it were the words, "Do not wake the hungry." I don't remember grabbing my flashlight. I just remember the moment it fell down the shaft and kept falling. And that's when I heard the voice. "You came to take, now you will feed." I turned and ran. The tunnel behind me was gone, sealed off by rock. But the worst part? The voices followed. Dozens of them, crying, screaming, begging me to take their place. Then came the faces, emerging from the walls, pale, half-buried, eyes wide and empty, like they'd been trapped for decades. One of them grabbed my arm and whispered, "He's awake. You opened it." Wade made it out somehow, found crawling miles away on the highway, dehydrated and covered in black dust that corroded anything it touched. He never worked again. They sealed Bravestone Ridge the next week, covered it with sand. No record, no mention. But sometimes truckers passing through Route 19 say they hear clicking sounds at night, like pickaxes still tapping deep under the earth. They call it the hollow below, and no one digs near Gravestone Ridge anymore. Because when you mine into the earth too deep, you don't just find gold, you wake things that were meant to stay buried.